Welcome back. It's your old buddy, the Guardian of Chaos, Big Daddy, and I tell it like it is. I'll say that to say this. Down here in the bunker, 20 feet below the surface of the earth, for the review show of Night 4, Round 1 of Avi Klein's 64-person single elimination bracket style tournament. Fans, if you didn't watch last night's show live, I implore you to go back and check it out. You're not going to want to miss it. It was lit up with stars, special grudge matches, huge announcements, and fans, it was a sight to behold, and they pulled it off again on the WWAB network. So we're here early on Memorial Day weekend on a Sunday. Kick back, relax. Breakfast is up on the table. I want everyone to have a cup of coffee, maybe hydrate with some water because the weather outside is frightful. But down here with the Guardian of Chaos, Kirkland Esquire, it's delightful. The studio is empty, so there'll be no hecklers. And what we're going to do here on all social media platforms, and that's Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, you're not going to want to miss it. And of course, Night 4 of the Green Room Tournament as it rolls on to determine who will host the Green Room. There were a lot of, again, twists and turns. I believe this is show number 8 that I'm covering, in addition to the WWAB Podcast Network. Now we know who they are at the WWAB. Here's the lineup. Monday nights, World's Strongest Podcast with Ken Patera. Tuesdays, Face Value with Bill DeMott. Wednesdays, Maintaining the Truth with Pretty Paul Roma. Thursdays, All In with Mark Henry. Fridays, Road to Recovery with Duke the Dumpster Drosy. Sundays, Unmasking the Truth with the Patriot Del Wilkes. And of course, Saturday nights, live. It's the Green Room. And all those shows are live 7 days a week, an hour and a half to 2 hours a day with the co-host with the most. And that would be one Avi Klein. Stay tuned on all social media platforms. It's a Sunday. Shout out to the veterans. Kick back and relax. All right, welcome back from all other social media platforms. I'm glad you're over there. It's me, it's the GOC. We're going to have a lot of fun. I'll say that to say this. I have a lot to cover. Last night was 3.5, almost a 4-hour show live. But again, it was full of twists and turns. And we're going to give you what we usually give you here with the GOC. And that's the good, the bad, and the ugly as we break down segment by segment of the Green Room Tournament. Fans, what an incredible night. We're going to kick back. We have some music going. I have the espresso over here. So we're going to kick back and have some fun here. I want to point out some different things. Now, this is just, in my opinion, things that I observe and the reports that I get by my good buddy, my right-hand man, my assistant, and that would be one Jay Brony over on Facebook. If you're not following him, I don't know what you're doing. And if you're not following me on all social media platforms, I don't know what to tell you either. And of course, down here in the bunker, this is what we do and what I do for you, the fans. I say it on every show. This is what you would get if I was the host of the Green Room. That's a guarantee. It would be live all the time. It would be unedited, unscripted, raw, ad-lib, organic. This is what you get, whether it's a one-man show, a two-man show, a three-man show, a four-man show. This is what you get with the GOC. I want to say that to say this. Let's jump right into it. We have time. We're going to upload this today on a Sunday. Again, the weather is a little crazy out there across the country. A big salute, as I said on the preview show for Night 4, to all our military and all our veterans and those who have served this country proudly, and for all the law enforcement and first responders. That's the most important thing that I can stress to everyone, and what they do to give back. And that's why I'm here for you and you, the fans, to give back to you. This is not about me. It's about me having fun. That's about it. But it's about me giving back to you. So let's get on to the different things that I noticed. Would you like to keep the music going? Should I lower it down? I mean, it's Acoustic Sunday. It doesn't get any better than that. Repost this, share, leave a comment. If I tag you in it, thank you. And I want to say that to say this as well. I want to thank everyone who has been able to let me tag them in these posts personally, and those who comment and share on it. It means a lot to the WWAB, and it means a lot to me personally that you continue to put this product out there, because if my name is attached to it, and of course all the stars, then you know it's the real deal, or we wouldn't be doing this. So this is what we're going to talk about. We open up night 4, round 1 of the tournament with Pete, who got his arse kicked, so to speak, by award-winning actress Sally Kirkland on night 3. Pete comes on from Sharpie, you know, the national sponsor, so let me not get too crazy, Pete. But Sally Kirkland did beat you. I mean, fair and square. You threw your hat into the ring. Stick to being a sponsor. That, like I said to James from Right Guard, and I know the history there, I stick to being a sponsor, okay? But Pete gives us a brief recap of night 3 and then a preview of night 4 and what's coming up on the event. He mentions a lot of different things. He mentions James from Right Guard in his opening monologue, so you know there's a history there. I don't know what happened in Las Vegas. I'm going to continue to dig. Jay Brony is on it. You know his background: PI, investigator, private bodyguard, security, bounty hunter. You know what he's done, right? And then throw me into the mix. We're a dangerous duo. He's investigating. We will find out what happened in Las Vegas. He mentions also, as I always say in my posts, and Avi says on every show, and we know that in the business, no matter what business it is, entertainment, film, TV, sports, music, pro wrestling, card and lineup subject to change, technical difficulties, all that stuff is out there. You know that going into it. So there were a couple things that had changed on there on the fly on Memorial Day weekend. And again, tomorrow, Memorial Day, let's thank the Lord above for everything that we have and be grateful and appreciative. And that's just another message I want to throw out there in my opening monologue here. So Glacier, Evan Ginsberg, Mark Henry, which Pete mentioned, card subject to change, things, do connections, flight, delays, cancellations, things happen. So always remember that and keep that in mind as Pete gives us the opening monologue. And then we go right into, and we know that when this all started back in September 12th of 2020, Avi Klein, once again, and the production people, Avi himself, puts out the intro video, montage, trailer, whatever it is that you want to call it, that is second to none. It really is. And it runs down through all the contestants, the history of how the Green Room got started with only, back in September 2020, what did it get? 20 views? And now it's up to almost 1.3, 1.4 million. Yeah, and don't get me started on that and all the different social media platforms and what Facebook and everyone does. Which I don't want to get talk about censors and all that. You know my deal with the let's not get crazy, because we know they make it difficult on you to put out such a great product. So we owe a lot to you, the fans, and me personally, to you, the fans, for making this whole thing go. Again, the video montages and the tributes are really unbelievable. What they put together, and it lays out in layman's terms, get that, lays out in layman's terms what's happening in the Green Room as the tournament rolls on, to see who will be the host. And in comes, after Pete's shtick, not shtick, I'm going to say shtick because you got your ass kicked by Sally Kirkland. I'll say that to say this. Here we go. Frosty Fine Klein. That's right. Tonight, Frosty Fine Klein. I'll give Avi credit. He's always coming up with something different, looking tremendous. And he opens up with a beautiful Memorial Day tribute. As I said, it's a very important weekend in this country, and to the veterans of this country, and things that need to be done for our military and so on and so forth. So again, a very important weekend, and I salute everyone. So again, we're going to jump right into it. Avi's been doing this every week, if you've noticed. This is night 4, okay? And all 4 nights, Avi starts off like it would in a lineup card or a performance card. You get your program, and bang, he starts off right out of the rip, and it's hot, and it's fast, and it's furious, and he brings out star power, name power, recognition, people that are going to make you tune right in, jump right into it, capture you like you're telling a story to an audience, and bringing you in and making you want more, because you never know what's going to happen. You never know who's going to show up on a Green Room. That's just the facts of it. Everybody is trying to get into the Green Room. So we're going to start off hot and heavy with Tugboat Typhoon, a.k.a. Fred Ottman, against Wrath, a.k.a. Atom Bomb, Brian Clark, who also served this country. Remember now, the video montages to both legends, second to none. I don't know who puts this together. I've asked Avi on it before. He's kind of humble about it, but I believe it's him and his staff. A great job. Remember now, Tugboat, very charismatic, cuts a promo not like no other, and man, can he really put it out there. He acts like he's 30 years old. You got to give Ottman a lot of credit. He's up 1-0 against Brian Clark on this one. So right out of the box, we know it's a best 2 out of 3. Tugboat was up 1-0. The first challenge is trivia. Now, Avi does the usual coin toss, heads and tails. Fred calls heads. Heads it is. So here we go. We're opening up the green room fast and furious. The first match out of the box with Frosty Frying Klein is Tugboat and Atom Bomb. Brian Clark versus Fred Ottman. Again, remember, 1-0. As we're 10 minutes in here, we blew right off to the monologue. Now, to start, Fred picks 80s rock and roll because that's the first challenge. It's trivia. Fred picks 80s rock and roll. Brian picks animals. Now, Avi didn't give me a lot to choose from, but those are the 2 categories that we're starting off with here. You can see that I'm always prepared, always notes, taking notes. We're going to be here for a little bit, but we're going to put this up before Unmasking the Truth comes on tonight with the Patriot Del Wilkes and Wrestling with Faith, Andy McDaniel. But during the week, let this soak in. You have a whole week to watch this and let this soak in and go through the night 4 review. And then during the week, I will preview what's coming up next week live, Saturday night live for night 5 as the Green Room tournament rolls on into the month of June. So here we go. The 80s rock trivia that Fred has to Tugboat. You know who I'm talking about. I don't have to keep saying that, do I? Anyone? Anyone? Bueller? So 80s rock and roll, it's an Aerosmith song, and it has to be related, obviously, to the 80s. The first question is, and Fred gets the right answer. It's a 80s band, obviously Aerosmith, and the answer is Janie's Got a Gun. So whatever it was, and let me just make sure we get the notes quick because we start off fast here with the 2 legends going into it. The first song is an 80s Aerosmith song, but I stand corrected. You remember what Bully Ray said to me, a 2-time Hall of Famer from Busted Open Radio, at least 25 years ago. He said to me, give the Guardian of Chaos 6 spots, and he'll screw up 5 of them. I consider that to be a compliment coming from a Hall of Famer. I'm proud of that. No? Well, I'm just saying. So Fred gets that one wrong. The second question is a David Bowie question. He also gets that wrong because the answer was Dancing in the Street. So I'm gonna briefly, I'm not gonna go word by word of what happened, but I'm gonna give you the highlights of what I saw. So the first 2 out of the box, actually the first 3, Tugboat gets wrong because who did not become a band member? And let me just double check here. Let me double check here because you know I'm double duty into here. Let me double check. The first question, the Aerosmith song, we know that Fred ended up getting it wrong. It was Janie's Got a Gun, the first Aerosmith song to be released in the 80s. Something to that effect. The next one is a David Bowie question, which Fred gets wrong, and the answer was Dancing in the Streets. Who was his partner? It was Mick Jagger. The third question did not feature a band member to pass in the 80s. It was a multiple choice. Fred got it wrong. The answer was Guns N' Roses. We get to the fourth question. Which band was not an 80s hair band? The multiple choice. Fred picks the Ramones. Boom. He gets it. But Fred only gets 1 out of the 4 questions and only earns 2 points. I wanted to break that down, make sure I had the explanation for you, the fans, correctly. Otherwise, why watch the show? Avi comes up with a bunch of different things here. So we move on to Brian's question about animals. The first question, who has the longest lifespan? Something to that effect. The answer was giant tortoise. Brian Clark gets it correct. The second question, a mammal capable of flight. Brian Clark didn't get this one right. He got it wrong. The answer was bat. The third question, color of the spider blood. It happens to be blue. Brian Clark got that wrong. Fourth question, known to be the most dangerous in the world. The answer was a croc. Brian Clark got that wrong. So you look here, a tough matchup in the trivia. Fred scores 2 points. Adam Baum scores 1 point. So Fred is up 1-0 now and wins the trivia challenge. Tough questions. In my opinion, I believe Tugboat got a little bit of an edge there on the questions. The animals category, very, very tough. So it's not only is Tugboat up 1-0 in the series, he is now up 1-0 after winning the trivia challenge. So we go on to the next challenge by Avi, and it's a Q&A by the fans. The Q&A, the questions the fans come up with are unbelievable. It really is something. So we continue here in the first matchup. The first question, and again, a lot of questions from Lucinda and Taekwon seem to be getting recycled through the network here. I'm not quite sure. But here's the next question to Brian. The rudest animal and why is what the question was, the Q&A by the fans. Adam Baum picks this silverback gorilla and lays it out there like nobody's business. And I happen to agree with Brian Clark on that one. The silverback gorilla has to be one of the rudest animals in the animal kingdom, so to speak. The next question from the fans goes to Tugboat, and it's, if you had superpowers, what would you prefer? Think about it, fans. If you were granted or were able to have one superpower, what would it be? These questions from the fans really make you think. Tugboat picks invisibility. And then he comes up with little racy, saucy answers. But that's neither here nor there. A good pick by Tugboat. We move on to the next question. And the question from the fans to Brian Clark is, what movie do you regret watching, or series or trilogies or whatever it is? What movie do you regret watching is the fan question. Brian Clark says pretty quickly, Jaws. Not the original, but like Jaws 3 and that genre and too many remakes. And there's a lot to be said for that. There's nothing like the original. Occasionally, unless it's something like Revenge of the Nerds, you'll get a good sequel. But occasionally, the Rocky series, you'll get a good sequel or maybe even a trilogy. But usually nothing's as good as the original. Let's face it, The Godfather, I can go on and on here. So a good point by Brian Clark. Fred's question, a.k.a. Typhoon Tugboat, the Shockmaster, what is the worst thing for someone to say to you in the morning? Now remember, Tugboat's a large individual. He seems to be a very positive, high-spirited, high-energy guy. But he sits back in that voice and says, how you feeling today, buddy? He said that would really annoy him and piss him off first thing in the morning. I guess there's something to be said for that. I'm a morning guy, an afternoon guy, an evening guy. I'm a guy. I'm the everyman, the common man, the people's choice. Hey, listen, I'm just going with the numbers and the facts, and they don't lie. 2 weeks in a row, I was voted by the fans, even though it's 1-1. And Pinocchio Joe, I know you're watching. I know you're watching. I know you're lurking somewhere. And now with Mickey Doyle back in the fold, and we'll get onto that, because I always give a spoiler here and there. We're tied 1-1. And whatever our third match is, it's a single elimination bout. I haven't forgotten. I haven't lost focus. Yeah, remember, my fear or anxiety, whatever degree or level, is healthy and what motivates and drives me. Remember that, Pinocchio Joe. But that's another story to come up in the green room on night 5, night 6, night 50, whenever it is. We'll get onto that. I'm here to put other people over that were pertinent for night 4. Remember that. That's what I do. So we're back on. So I agree with Fred about what question that somebody asks you would it kind of annoy you if it becomes ad nauseum. So good questions by the fans. The next question for Brian Clark is, what would you tell a young Brian Clark? Now I thought that was a great question. Think about that, fans. Looking back, what would you tell a young, whoever you are that's watching this show? And I know you are. So Brian says, he would say, stay laser focused. Keep training, keep trying. Don't give up. Follow through on what you have to do. And coming from a guy like Brian Clark, who's been successful in serving this country, successful in life, and successful in entertainment, strong words from a smart guy in Brian Clark. Same question to Tugboat. What would you tell a young Fred Ottman Sixpack? And he comes up with another great answer. And he said he would have asked more questions to the elderly, to the older generations, to the people who paved the way before him, for their wisdom and their knowledge. And he himself would learn many skills and try to be multifaceted and learn as much as you can, because you can never learn enough. Knowledge, skills, doing different things, being a jack of all trades. And again, seeking and worshiping the people that came before you, your elders. And there's a lot to be said for that. And both those guys made great answers to those questions. I'll have to say that to say this. We move on. We go on. Again, strong segment here. We move on, and now we get to the votes. Pete votes Brian. Avi votes Fred. So let me say that again. Pete votes for Adam Bomb. Avi votes for Tugboat. So we go to the fans' vote right out of the box. Now remember, a lot of times the fans' vote doesn't get a chance to get counted. So whenever the fans can be interactive here is unbelievable. So the fan vote is important. The fan votes come in because, again, I'm thinking there had to be at least over 1 million live viewers, as there is every night on the WWE AB network. And of course, the Green Room is the fastest, hottest, rising, growing movement in the entertainment industry. It's a cross between Days of Our Lives and SNL. Some people say it's a cross between GH and SCTV. Either or. Tomato, tomato, potato, potato. I said that in the last review. The bottom line is the fans voted for Adam Bomb, a.k.a. Wrath Brian Clark. I salute you. And now the series is tied 1-1. And personally, with the wit and wisdom and the world travelers that these two men are, I'm glad it's tied 1-1. I want to see this go the distance and let the two men blow each other out and blow each other up. And I say it every week. Jay Brony leaves it in the comment section. The irresistible force meets the immovable object. Thank you, Gorilla Monsoon. We move right on because we're moving fast and furious to a very, very heated battle that comes up next. And of course, the trailers, the videos for each performer and competitor, everybody gets their share, their cup of coffee, their time on the Green Room. This right here is the only match that is tied 0-0. It's a dead even draw after the first matchup between the Murder Hornet and the Killer Bee, between the president of the Cauliflower Alley Club, the world traveler, the icon, the legend of B. Brian Blair, and of course, another man who served this country, the lone wolf, Eric Heron, a very cerebral, intense, laid-back man against Mr. Positivity in B. Brian Blair. So we move right on to see what's going to happen. We get a coin toss. Brian gets tails. The number one challenge from Avi Klein, is he's always pulling something out of his hat, is trivia. So we go to multiple choice. That's usually how it is. We bang it right out of the box. Brian's choices are, he chooses Florida, the history of Florida. Now, B. Brian Blair is from Florida, wrestled in Florida, his whole history of Florida. The Killer Bees, a buzz buzz. You know I had to say that, right? I have to do it every show. A buzz buzz. My little tribute, a buzz buzz. Multiple choice. First question about Florida. Bang. Brian Blair gets it right. Second question. Killer Bee gets it right. Third question. Killer Bee gets it right. Fourth question. The president of the Cauliflower Alley Club gets it right out of the box. And I say that all the time because that's the phrase I'm using. Because a nickel ain't worth a dime anymore. Or is it a dime ain't worth a nickel? Either way, it's apropos. 4 questions from Avi and B. Brian Blair that goes to show you the intellect, and that's why he's the president of the Cauliflower Alley Club. It's self-explanatory. That's why he's a legend. We go over to Eric, again, a patriot, a veteran, a guy who's very intense, a guy who's almost guaranteed victory. I don't know, a little full of himself maybe. Hey, listen, respect what you do and what you did. You still have to bring it here, homeboy. Just that simple. You've been going back and forth. It is what it is. He picks a topic that is so current and relevant, Memorial Day and Memorial Day weekend. So here we go. First question from Avi Klein. The Murder Hornet gets it wrong. Boom. Game over. That quick. Memorial Day. Veteran. First responder. Unbelievable guy. Eric Heron gets it wrong. So that's it. Brian's up 1-0 in this challenge right now. He wins the challenge of trivia. B. Brian Blair. 4 questions. Bang, 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 bang. So we didn't even get on to a second question by the Murder Hornet. The second challenge is, again, we go back to the fans. So if you don't get a chance to vote, you get a chance to voice your opinion. That's why I always say it's about you, the fans. Here's a Q&A. We go to Brian, the legendary B. Brian Blair, and the first question by the fans is, who would you want to play you in a movie? Now, the Killer B thinks about it, but he was pretty quick to answer, and he comes up with Clint Eastwood. They kind of look alike if you think about it. B. Brian could be a little bit younger version of Clint Eastwood. No, I'm just saying. For Eric, the question from the fans is, name the worst name for an action hero. Now, I don't remember what the Murder Hornet, a.k.a. the Lone Wolf, came up with, because it was so insignificant that it didn't even get reported to me. So I don't even know who the worst action hero could be, the worst name for an action hero. I don't know. I'll say, I don't know, Diaper Man. Am I showing my age? Does anybody remember Diaper Man? The baby would fly through, or he was a grown adult flying through. This is way back, and he was a superhero, and he wore diapers. Diaper Man. Does anybody remember that? We're 26 minutes in. Can somebody leave a comment on Diaper Man? We go on to the next question. B. Brian Blair from the fans, he has to compare which state and what food would be best represented by these states that Avi lays out there as the question by the fans. And they pick off the Sunshine State, Florida, the Empire State, New York, which is really going downhill, and the Lone Star State of Texas, which I love personally, Texas and Florida. What food would best represent those states? So this is B. Brian Blair, his opinion. Now, I guess there is no wrong answer, but you have to sell it. Sell, and then what? Sell some more. Keep it simple, stupid. B. Brian Blair says Florida, it's paella. In New York, it's habits. And in Texas, he goes with the old Tex-Mex, Mex-Tex. So 3 pretty damn accurate, I'm not sure if I agree with all of them, but pretty accurate answers by the president of the Cauliflower Alley Club. That's why he's such a worthy competitor. We go to Eric, and his question is from Taekwon, they seem to, Taekwon and Lucinda, get their questions answered more than any other fans. So the question to Eric, who's, again, a guy who's always thinking, what's popular now, but in 5 years, you might be embarrassed to say that 5 years ago, you were a fan of it, or you liked it, or you followed it. And the first thing that Eric says, and not to be too political, because this is strictly satirical and parody. You know that, right? Everybody lighten up, have a sense of humor. So the Murder Hornet picks Joe Biden. And a lot of people jumped on a train and kind of chuckled because of the way this country's going in all reality. And the truth of it is, because I tell it like it is, that would be something that if you went down that road, you reap what you sow. I'll say that to say this. But then he goes on to the New York Knicks, because the New York Knicks fans, they're in the playoffs now, but does anybody really care about the NBA? I used to be a Knicks fan, but back to the 70s. Willis Reed, Clyde Frazier, Earl Monroe, Dave Bradley, Bill DeBusschere, Phil Jackson, Jeff Reardon, Willis Reed, Dick Barnett. I mean, the list goes on and on. That's my era. That's my ilk. 72, 73, 71. And then we move forward. I'll even give you the 90s with Patrick Ewing, John Starks, Trent Tucker. The list goes on and on. But not nowadays. No. It's all about the money, politics, this, that, hypocritical. I don't watch sports anymore. Well, the occasional baseball. But if it gets too political, it's my escape, and that's why I'll stick to music, or I'll stick to the green room. So that's what Eric picks. So we'll get on to the fan questions. The next fan question is to Brian Blair. What TV film character is funny, but in real life you wouldn't want to hang out with him? Brian Blair comes up with Grumpy Old Men, the former Odd Couple original star from the big screen, Walter Matthau. Avi Klein says Felix Unger from The Odd Couple. Interesting answer there from Midnight Fine, Frosty Flying, Red Wine Klein, Blue Ice Avocado, Midnight Shine, Festive Fine Klein. Felix Unger. I'm more partial to Oscar Madison, to be quite honest with you. What does that say? I don't know. We go on to Eric, and his question is, what decade to the Murder Hornet would you like to visit? Now, Eric comes up with a very interesting era, because that's an era that I was a young man, a teenager in, and that would be the era of the 70s. Hey, listen, the 70s was a little freer, and yeah, coming out of Vietnam, and the sports was fantastic. You had the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Dallas Cowboys, the New York Knicks, the New York Yankees, the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Big Red Machine, Cincinnati Reds, all the famous teams in the big sports, the Broadway Bullies, the New York Rangers, the Boston Bruins. I mean, there was a lot going on. The music, Motown, the sounds of Philadelphia. It just was a great time in the 70s. We were coming along and all getting together, leading into the 80s, which to me was probably personally my personal favorite decade. The decadence of the 80s and so on and so forth. But it's hard to believe where we are now in society with all the bad things and what's happening, compared to where we were 30, 40 years ago, when it was supposed to be worse, but it was actually much, much better. You treated people by not the way they looked, not where they came from, but how they treated you, how they were as a person. Interpersonal communication skills, pretty simple. I don't know where we went going, what we've lost. And, 30 minutes into, half an hour in here, I've changed from the green room to letting you know what I'm really all about. But let me get back to focus here, because we're in the middle of a major matchup here with the Murder Hornet and the Killer Bee. But these questions make me think too. So that's why you're here, to get my personal twist and insight to what I'm doing. And my view, the different outside view as an insider. See what I did there? To the WWAB. So excellent for the 70s. No right and wrong answer. You got to sell it. You got to sell it. Like if you were an elevator and you had 20 seconds or 30 seconds to sell your story to whatever it was that you were doing in life, and your life depended on it. It's a perfect example that I've heard many times. So we move on to question number 4 here, the Q&A segment from the fans. The Murder Hornet and the Killer Bee, night 4 rolls on here. Live to tape with the GOC down in the bunker. The next question for Brian Blair is, what animal is the cutest if you were to make it as small as a cat? A lot of people came up with this answer in the chat room, and even the national sponsor, B. Brian Blair, said an elephant. So I guess that makes sense. It's so makes sense. It's so large, and you kind of like it. Elephant seems to be like a very dangerous animal. I don't know if I would have picked an elephant. I don't know when it would come, but then he picked an elephant. Eric, and then we're in the 4th question here by the Q&A. Eric is, what movie could you watch over and over and over again? And this may say a lot about it. Maybe he's more akin to Crowbar than he is to B. Brian Blair, because Eric says to the Star Wars trilogy, Empire Strikes Back, which me personally, I've never really had any interest in. Watched bits and pieces here and there, but never really got into it, never really understood it. Not saying it's not a great flick, it's not legendary. The numbers don't lie when it comes to Star Wars. So here we go. A lot of different things, a lot of good answers. Both these men are highly intelligent. So we go to the votes. Pete picks Brian. Avi picks Eric. We go to the fans' votes. It's unbelievable. The votes start pouring in. Remember, this series is deadlocked. It's 0-0. The fan votes are piling in. Who wins? The president of the Cauliflower Alley Club, Killer Bee, B. Brian Blair. And let me tell you something, this was a close one. The votes were close. Both men represented themselves unbelievable. That's why it was the only bout, the only matchup, if you will, that was actually a dead draw, tied after the first match. So now, this is a best of 3. Mr. Positive, the Killer Bee, a Buzz. 2 incredible men. I salute them both. What an excellent matchup. A little soft on each other, though. A little soft. Congratulations. Listen, there's mutual respect for each other. I get it. And good gamesmanship and sportsmanship. And then there's being soft. I'm just saying. But again, both men now. B. Brian Blair's up 1-0. We finally have, he's up 1-0, a leader in this series and the best out of 3. At that point, you're 1 hour in to the WWE WWAB. I always say WWE. There's no infringement. WWAB. You know what I'm talking about. But when you do this with no script and it's unedited and ad-lib and organic and you don't edit, this is what happens. You put the product out there however it is, live to tape. You get it, right? We're 1 hour in on the green room last night. So let's take a little break here. Deep breathe. Breathe deep. Again, it's raining, it's pouring out. I got little halls. I think of the award-winning actress, and this is a shoot. I say it on every show. 35 minutes in here. Bear with me, please. We'll take a little break. Anahu. Anahu. It really does help with the overall being. And that's a shoot. I'm telling you. You think I'm kidding? I'm not. What a handsome guy, huh? Wow, I'll tell you. Okay, so let's get back here. Thanks for being with me. 35 minutes in here on a Memorial Day weekend, reviewing Night 4, Round 1 of the 64-person single elimination bracket-style tournament as Avi Klein's Green Room tournament rolls on into the month of June and a long, hot summer. We're talking right now, we just wrapped up B. Brian Blair and Eric Heron. The Killer Bee is up 1-0. So here we go now. Pete comes in and Avi comes back in. And all of a sudden, Pete is talking about, and it seems to be something chicanery every week. He hits a reset. Remember, Avi explained at the beginning of the tournament, you can be saved. He can hit a reset. They can do whatever they did. They hit the big reset to even start this tournament. That's how it started. That's how David Holliday and Howard Collado got screwed to begin with. The Great Reset. So Pete hits a reset, and this is the first time I've seen it happen. And it won't be the last. Avi Klein gets muted or mooted or however you want to say. He gets shut down by the national sponsor, Pete from Sharpie. I've never seen that before. I kind of chuckled. Jay Brony told me he kind of chuckled too. Oh, what? That's not shtick. I'm just saying, I chuckled. And now you know what happens? A guy that I have a personal interest in, one of the originals, I'll give him credit. He was on the pup. He showed up, and out of nowhere, the return of Mickey Doyle. Irish Mickey Doyle, one of the Green Room originals, the original 4, returned last night live from Michigan, Wisconsin, Canada. I don't know where he's from. He could be from the grave for all I know. But Mickey comes with a lot of craziness, a lot of insanity. He's a highly entertaining guy. He really is. He knows a lot of people. Don't get me started on Pinocchio Joe. He's got a big family, great people. But Mickey's kind of like Doc from Back to the Future at times. And he is quite the ladies' man, Mr. Amour. Talk about lead in the pencil. I'm just saying, let me not get too crazy here. We got national sponsors definitely watching here. We want to keep it great. I don't want to offend anybody. But unbelievable. I can't believe it. The Great Reset, I believe he has to face multiple different opponents. It's unbelievable. Pete agrees to it, and he tells Avi, this is the way it is. He has no choice. It's unbelievable. And then, who does he put Mickey Doyle up? But listen, it didn't come with a price for Mickey to get back. Avi's saying he's fired, you were fired, this, that, the whole 9 yards. He's been hurt, whatever, the whole incident with Roma. But he's back. There's no choice, and you knew who they put him up against because you knew this was going to happen in order for him to earn his way back in. From the Brood, WWE alumni, Vampire Warrior, Gangrel, a.k.a. David Heath, shows up at the Green Room for his first round matchup, and it's against Irish Mickey Doyle, legendary grappler. You cannot believe it. This really was a shocker as the third matchup here on the Green Room last night. I couldn't believe it. So here we go. Again, welcome back, Mickey. I'll say that to say this. The first challenge is trivia. The coin toss goes to Gangrel. He says heads, and here we go. The trivia that Avi pulls out of that always pulling something out of that hat. Gangrel goes with 90s events. The first question he gets wrong. The second question he gets right. The third question he gets right. Something about sheep. You never know what Avi's going to come up with, and certainly with Gangrel and throwing Mickey Doyle to the mix. And how ironic that sheep are part of the question and get brought up. No, I don't know where it went from there. I'm just telling you, sheep, Mickey Doyle. Well, what, where's the relevance there? But that was the question, and Gangrel got it right. Fourth question about the Unabomber. You got to really be on your toes in the green room. Gangrel gets it right. The fifth question, Gangrel gets it wrong, but he gets 3 out of 5. You see that? We go to Mickey. His category in trivia, and I'll give Gangrel credit. He came up with answers for questions that, how could you possibly know that unless you're the vampire warrior? It was dark where Gangrel was too, so I don't know what was going on. I have no idea. What a true legend. He's still active to this day. Just saw him in AEW, Gangrel. I don't understand it. Here we go. Mickey's questions are about Motown. Now, Mickey was born and raised in Michigan. He was born and raised in Motown. I don't know. Unbelievable. So here we go, Mickey. Listen, don't take Mickey for a fool. First question, bang, correct. Second question, correct. Third question, correct. Fourth question, correct. Mickey Doyle's up right out of the box, returning to the green room, being injured on the pup list against a legend, a current star who's still relevant. Mickey's up 1-0 that quick against Gangrel. Unbelievable. I was shocked. I was stunned. I got all the reports in. Jay was telling me, you can't make this up, what's happening here with Mickey Doyle. So now he's up 1-0. Here's the second challenge. Avi, again, pulling things out of the hat, a debate challenge. Mickey's first debate, why is Chuck Norris the greatest action star? In turn, Gangrel, David Heath, has to say why and debate is Bruce Lee the greatest action star. Now listen, you can't go wrong with either one of those guys. Chuck Norris, Bruce Lee, both Mickey and Gangrel came up with excellent debates. Me personally, I'm going Bruce Lee all day. Enough said. I don't even need to explain it. The second debate, Mickey has to come up as why is oatmeal the #1 breakfast choice? And I have to say, it might not be my breakfast choice, but oatmeal is a solid breakfast choice. And coming from Mickey, who looks like my grandfather eating ice cream, I could see him with a bowl of oatmeal and dribbling all the way. I'm just saying, no disrespect, no offense. So he says oatmeal. That was a pretty damn good choice. And the question for Gangrel, this is where I got a little lost. This is why I was confused as a baby at Hooters. And you get that, right? If you go in there lunch, dinner, I mean, you get the relevance, the natural bond, the mother, the baby. If you went there, they serve family food at Hooters. They do. But I'm just saying. So something about Tony the Tiger or cereal. I don't know where the question went there, but I believe Gangrel might have said Tony the Tiger. They're great. Does anybody remember that? Am I showing my age here? But we go on. Let's go on to the next question. And here's Mr. Stud himself. Mr. I say always about the spittle. Mr. Amour, so to speak. Mickey, the question is, the debate is, why is Guns N' Roses his go-to choice for romance? So Mickey starts bringing up Mr. Brownstone, Sweet Child of Mine. Whoa, whoa, sweet child of mine. Well, okay, but you get it. So he's trying to make the case here. If anybody could make a case with all his kids, Mickey Doyle and Guns N' Roses, that's a sight that I will never be able to get a vision out of my head forever. Mickey Doyle knocking boots to Guns N' Roses. Think about that. In turn, Gangrel has to say Metallica as his go-to for romance. And listen, with Gangrel and his reputation and where he comes from, he comes up with Enter the Sandman as his go-to song to get it on, so to speak, for romance. Now I lay me down to sleep, day the Lord I'm told to keep. Unbelievable. No, this is not Mariano Rivera coming out of the bullpen. The heck with the Yankees. This is Metallica. I worked the several shows for Metallica. I can go back to the big Meadowlands up here, and unbelievable. We threw out about 150 people. They were stacked like 10 people high at the stage, ripping out the seats. We saved lives that night at Metallica. We're talking late 80s. So those are some of the things that the GOC has done. So Sandman saying Metallica and Enter the Sandman, I don't know if I can hear myself think from that concert 25 years ago, maybe 30 years ago. So very interesting debate series right there. I will say that to say this. Here comes the votes. Pete votes for Mickey Doyle. Now, listen, Pete set the great reset right now for Mickey Doyle to get back in here. And I get that he probably deserves that as an OG and original. But you could see that coming. And Pete's been squirrely this whole tournament. Pete votes for Mickey. Avi votes for Gangrel. We go to the fans. Remember now, this is a best-of-3 matchup because Avi said it later on. He didn't pull it to begin with. But Mickey Doyle versus Gangrel is a best-of-3. And Pete was the one who made that happen because they're going to make Mickey go through multiple choices. And that's why he started off with Gangrel to earn his way back. Hey, Mick, it's not my problem. Sorry about your damn luck. Yeah, and I'm stealing it because I don't care. So this is the best-of-3. The fans, the votes come rolling in again. You, the fans, make it work as we're 45 minutes in here to night 4 and the review show. The fans overwhelmingly voted for Gangrel. Although I will say Mickey had a few trickle in. Kind of like maybe when he goes to the bathroom, it trickled in. I get it. I don't want to get too crazy here. But the fans vote for Gangrel. This is a best-of-3. Now we go to the tiebreaker because remember, it's 1-1. Mickey won the trivia challenge. Gangrel wins the debate challenge. It's 1-1. Now there's got to be a tiebreaker. The tiebreaker is a coin toss. Avi with the coin toss is that simple. That's what it happens when they take it out of the fans' hands. This is what happens. Coin toss, deadlock, boom. Gangrel calls heads. Heads it is. Gangrel's up 1-0 in the best-of-3. So, Mickey, you got to really climb all the way back, my friend. What an unbelievable matchup. What a shocker. What a twist and turn to have Mickey Doyle back and to have the great Gangrel show up. And now Gangrel is up 1-0 in a best-of-3. Well, Mickey, unbelievable. We go into now, after this, for strange reasons, I don't know, this could have something to do with all the different guests, cards subject to change. You never know who's going to show up on the green room. All those huge stars, announcements. As we're 47 minutes in here, this is where we go. Avi is exit stage left. Or if you're watching out there, I said, but what's the exit stage left? So now who comes in? It's not the Friends reunion that everyone is talking about. It's the Green Room Originals reunion. Here comes Howard Collado, David Hatz Holiday, and of course Mickey Doyle. Avi's nowhere to be seen. He's off camera. So they both go off. Howard and David go off on Mickey and all the different things that he's done and all the problems he's caused in the green room and all the different harassment cases and the baggage that comes with Mickey, and they really lay into him as one of the originals. And then we get down to Hatch and Pete from Sharpie. The national sponsor comes in. Now they got Mickey back in, and they're asking Mickey, Pete and David are asking after, let's face it, I could say this on this platform, Howard and David turned Mickey a new asshole. And now David and Pete are asking, why do you deserve to be here, Mickey? Why do you deserve to be here? And they put Mickey on the spot. Mickey says he deserves to be here for the reasons that he's entertaining. He's been around. He was one of the originals. They go on and on. I don't know. He even mentions Jerry Springer. I don't know where that came from. I was on Jerry Springer. The Iron Sheik. Oh, Amazing Tales. It's on my social media. So I know what he's talking about when he mentions Jerry Springer. I know I said I. Don't get hung up on that. But it's so, Avi comes back on. And he lashes Pete again for the whole Mickey Doyle thing, for picking Mickey, for the reset. Coming back, there's a lot of heat now between Avi and Pete. Again, we go on for a good 20 minutes, half an hour, maybe longer, between Howard, David, Mickey, Avi, Pete from Sharpie. Now, you know they're all connected here. So it really is an interesting banter, and it gives you the insight of what the higher-ups and the originals of this that started this back in September 2020, of what they're thinking, a peek into what they're thinking about. We go back to David, Howard, Pete, and Mickey again. Okay, so they go back and forth and banter about everything from the history, their friendships, the sponsors, the reset, and it really is a lot of emotions, a lot of anxiety, a lot of heat, a lot of confusion. This, to me, I see the originals here and everyone in this green room attacking each other and falling apart, including maybe the man who runs it all, Avi Klein. Now let's get back. Avi finally gets his wits together as this goes on for a good half an hour, maybe longer. Avi comes back on, and again, you never know. He goes back into a historical speech and genuflect and reflection and perception and pondering and whatever words you want to use or don't want to use, back to the 1940s. And who comes on? And again, I just like people said it with Todd Bridges and catchphrases and how you know them best. Temporary layoffs, good times, easy credit ripoffs, good times, scratching and surviving. Just looking out of the window, or watching the asphalt grow. Ain't we lucky we got 'em? Good times. Listen, along with everything from Coming to America, the reboot, to the historical roots, to West Wing, to theater, to everything you could think of. And he's still active. Mr. John Amos. I cannot believe it. No one saw it. This man's been on everything from Maude to Sanford and Son to Mary Tyler Moore to, as we said, to Roots, to his legendary role as James Evans in Good Times. Listen, I had chills. James Evans was like a stepfather in my house. You can think back to those days. You watched it every week. Those were the shows. So John Amos, what a humble guy. He looks great. He's still active in film and career and theater. He's living out in Colorado. I mean, it's unbelievable. John Amos looked great, and for Avi to pull this off, he does it every damn week with someone from Hollywood film, pro wrestling, TV. It doesn't matter. It's unbelievable what this guy continues to do. How can you doubt this guy? How can you doubt credibility? How can you doubt what he's trying to do? I don't understand it. I'm just speaking for me. So Avi comes out with a great conversation, because I don't want to say an interview, although he's got excellent interview skills and always seems to ask the right questions. Again, Avi starts asking different things, and they have a conversation about growing up and different working. John Amos was talking about the different jobs that he worked and the experiences of what prepared him in life, and all those different things prepared him as a person, and what a huge influence his mother was. And she gave him the tools to survive, the basic tools on how to work hard, be a good person, Lord God, walk with faith. And listen, what a humble, honest, hardworking man that laid it out there. And what a history in sports. Pro football, British Columbia Lions, Kansas City Chiefs, the Denver Broncos. John Amos did everything. They talked about desegregation in the New Jersey educational system, South Jersey. They talked about racism. They talked about John Amos's days hanging on the railroad tracks and trains, and the experience of being a garbage man and working hard. They talked about his actual first play and first theater when he was first introduced. It was a man who came to dinner. He was a Golden Gloves, a funny story that Avi brought up in boxing, and talking about how he got knocked on his ass before too, or whether he won the fight or didn't win the fight. But these are the different things they even delve into. And John talks about Ray Malavasi, NFL coach. For the Broncos, and how he signed him and gave him his first shot. But unfortunately, he was injured. And then, talking about the Kansas City Chiefs and how one of his sons is named KC. I mean, the conversation and the things in the history that Avi covered with John Amos, as I go through and I look back at what was presented last night, was unbelievable. They even talk about on stage and theater where John Amos had something called the Amos Hour in his early years. And then, of course, they talk about how television has changed from the 60s and 70s to now, and how great the 60s and 70s and 80s TV were. Again, I mentioned it with John Amos being on the Conways and on Maude and Sanford and Son, and very influential. And Mary Tyler Moore, he thought, was his biggest break. And that led him to working with Norman Lear on Good Times. And he talks about temporary fame and how fleeting it is, and how brief the shelf life is in acting in Hollywood and theater, and you must continue to reinvent yourself. And then he pays homage to Martin Sheen and Ernest Borgnine, who he paid big kudos to. about, you know, the way he looked and his look, and taught him that the way John Amos is and the way he thought and his appearance, that they were similar in certain ways. And Ernest Borgnine taught him to embrace yourself and be who you are, and that's what led him to be into Hollywood. Because look at Ernest Borgnine with his features, and very strong and chiseled, and McHale's Navy and all that. And he relayed that a lot to John Amos, who thought maybe he wouldn't make it in this industry. And it really was an incredible tribute in the different things that he covered. And then, you know, you talk about the miniseries and the influential miniseries, 130 million viewers back then. I mean, talk about viewers and ratings of the miniseries Roots, where he played the older Kinte to LeVar Burton's Kunta Kinte. It was historical times for that back then, and they covered it all on here. And James Amos ends up saying, in this business, in this industry, and it's been related to me by Avi and people that I've talked to, learning about this business, yeah, you can have your wheelhouses, your catchphrases, your go-to, but you have to be well-rounded. You have to be multifaceted. This has been said to me recently. You have to show vulnerability, or why does anybody care about your character or who you are? You must show vulnerability. These are different things, and this is what you learn, whether you're on the inside, the outside, a fan, or whatever it is, trying to get in the business, don't care about the business, or just a casual. This is what you learn when you watch The Green Room and the different things and the actors that have been on, whether it be Michael Winslow, James Casase. We talk about Mr. Winters and all the different people that have been on here, Sally Kirkland, Timothy Busfeld, and what you learn by those interviews and what you learn with their knowledge and what they pass on to you. Whether you retain it or not for your own use, but it's such interesting history, and it's like listening and opening up an encyclopedia. So that's what I'm going to say, and the advice hits home for a guy like me. So John goes on to speak, and this was lengthy, but it was well worth it. He goes on to, again, like I said, he speaks of his son KC, named after the Kansas City Chiefs, and the project that they're working on now, and that's his biggest influence, and you have to go out and check that out, and John Amos, and follow him on social media. And he does pay an unbelievable tribute to his mom. And just a couple of days ago, it was my mom's birthday. She passed 6 years ago. So I love you, Mom. Thinking of you. And John Amos really hit home when he brought up his mom and how she taught about him. I alluded to a couple minutes ago, the basic tools of survival for any man, any woman, any walk of life, any culture, race, creed, color, religion. This is what John Amos broke it down, and I couldn't agree more. God, your work ethic, mutual respect for all. What a powerful message. And this is what you get. And as I mentioned, with all the previous actors and people, and people, that the quality of their content that come on here, and their character and what they relay, you can really relate to it. And that's what The Green Room, okay, it's satirical, it's parody, it is what it is. But then you get things like this and people like this of influence who are just normal, common, everyday people, and you can relate, and they're very relatable to the audience. That's what you get. That's what sets it apart on this platform that no other platform does. And I know I'm rambling on here. We're coming up on an hour, but it's worth making the point. So I hope you stayed here. John Amos. And then, who's one of the most lucky guys around, because he's earned it. He's deserved it. I'll just say that to say this. David Holliday, Howard Collado, they get to come on and interact, and you can't take back what Avi Klein is presenting for you gentlemen, and for all of us involved, who you get to work with and be a part of, and like be in the same locker room or on the same stage is unbelievable. So impromptu, out of nowhere, we have a trivia matchup between David Holliday, Mr. Main Event, I guess so, against John Evans, a.k.a. Good Times, Mr. John Amos. What a pleasure. I still can't believe it, John Amos. So here we go. We go with trivia. John Amos trivia. I gave it to Avi, just getting an impromptu game here, bringing him right into the mix. That's what you get here in The Green Room. John goes with 80s NFL, and David gets weird facts. Now here we go. Question 1. Most Super Bowls is what Avi asks in the 80s. John Amos got this wrong. I was shocked and surprised by that. Second question. Most yards in the 80s. Bang. John Amos guesses it. Sweetness, Walter Payton. Third question. Most receiving yards in the 80s and by MVP. Jerry Rice. Bang. John Amos gets that one. Number 4. Only winless team in the 80s. Fourth question. Bang. Correct. Colts. John Amos gets 3 out of 4. I'm surprised he didn't get all 4. We go on to David. Weird facts. Now, something happens here. Technical, muted, self-muted, sabotage, setup. I don't know what it is. I just know that John Amos was unbelievable answering his questions and with his story. And when it came to David Holliday's weird facts, all of a sudden, Avi Klein, his biggest supporter, got kind of weird. Don't you find the irony in there? Mr. Main Event, Avi's the biggest supporter of Avi Klein. It's obvious who Avi Klein supports. David Holliday. He turns on him, I hear. I'm thinking, Jay told me. We saw it live. Most expensive baseball card ever sold. Boom. Internet interruption. He got cut off. Second question. The oldest fast food chain. Internet connection. David got cut off. Third question. Youngest to win an Oscar. Muted. He muted by himself. All the questions wrong. Internet connection. Muted. Whatever. Technical difficulties. Boom. It was over. David got cut off. That was it. He was out of the screen. John Amos wins the trivia challenge. Talk about setup. Talk about every man for himself. Talk about dog eat dog. Talk about Avi Klein throwing his buddy under the bus. It says a lot what happens here in the green room. John Amos, what an incredible appearance, and he wins the trivia challenge, a story that's a must-read, and that new film that he's working on with his son, KC, Because of Charlie. So I want you to remember that. John Amos, the project he's working on right now, and with his son, still active, legendary, iconic figure, John Amos, Because of Charlie. Keep an eye on the new film. Wow. That really was interesting, which leads us into another big surprise. If you're into this industry, you're into entertainment, you're into TV, film, all these different things, the big screen, you're not going to believe what happens next. After John Amos and the whole trivia impromptu with David Holliday, Avi intros Mark Zicree and Robert Picardo. Let me say it again. Robert Picardo and Mark Zicree. Now, if you don't know who they are, you didn't do your homework, or you didn't watch, or you don't know what you're talking about, I'll give you a brief little rundown. They're screenwriters. They're actors. They've been in all kinds of movies, everything from The Twilight Zone to He-Man to The Wonder Years to Star Trek. I mean, I can't go on and on more. Right now, Robert Picardo has his own YouTube channel. Mark Zicree has his YouTube channel, Mr. Sci-Fi. They're filmmakers, screenwriters, two funny, engaging guys. I didn't see this coming. They came out of nowhere. Avi, you did it again. And right now, they're in the middle of a project called Space Command. For all you sci-fi, Star Wars, all you freaks, geeks, regular people, common people, and even the stars. Sci-fi, crowd-funded Space Command. That's what this interview was all about. It really was unbelievable. And then Avi always gets these guests. He ropes them in. He dangles the carrot. He gets them into the green room. And then he has them compete in challenges. Mark Zicree, Robert Picardo, do your research. I don't have to continue to explain it here. I do want to say, if you're into sci-fi, you want to be a part of it, it's crowdfunded. Space Command is what these gentlemen are all about. Here we go. We're playing a game. Avi Klein comes up with more underrated, what deserves more love, so to speak. You know Avi. So he starts off with Mr. Zicree. What deserves more love? And he gives him multiple choice. And Mark picks Men Named Chip. I would have maybe picked Men Named Biff, but I guess we can go with Men Named Chip. Now remember the challenge here. It's who deserves more love, more underrated. These are the questions to Robert Picardo and Mark Zicree. Robert comes up with, now remember, Robert Picardo just recently celebrated, I believe it was, I'm not a huge fan of it, but it's legendary. We've seen it. It's cult classic. I believe it was last year, the 30th anniversary of Gremlins, or Gremlins 2, because Robert Picardo was a big part of that. Gremlins. I don't know. You tell me. Leave a comment. Leave a comment here about Gremlins. So he comes up with what deserves more love. I don't know where this comes from. I don't know what happens here in the green room. Disco fries. Has anybody ever heard or thought of or ever even invented disco fries? Could somebody leave a comment and explain to me what disco fries are? So that's where Robert Picardo goes with who deserves more love? Disco fries. Next question. Mark is who deserves more love. We transition to most underrated. Mark comes up with Art Carney, a.k.a. from the Honeymooners, Ed Norton. Bang, zoom to the moon with Jackie Gleason. Hamana, hamana, hamana. What a classic series, the Honeymooners. And, of course, Ed Norton. What an unbelievable actor. And his part, Art Carney as Ed Norton, unbelievable. So I like that. Very underrated. We go on to Robert says dogs named Travis. I don't know where he came up with that, but he said dogs named Travis is very underrated. In turn, Mark Zickery comes up with women named Joe. These are multiple choice. These are things that Avi Klein throws out there. Think about this. Underrated. I don't think Josephine? Joanna? Joanne? I guess you would call him Joe. I guess that's underrated, right? Dogs named Travis? I don't know where we're going here. These are sci-fi guys. But one thing that did come up, they agreed with most underrated because Mark Zickery was involved with this, and Robert Picardo, who again was highly entertaining. This guy could be a stand-up comic. They did both agree on this one subject, and I loved it growing up. It brings me back to my days back in the, I want to say late 70s when I had my first radio gig. And you know what they were both talking about? WKRP in Cincinnati. Now, what is that jingle? I'm tired of town of packing and unpacking, town to town, up and down the dial. Baby, you were never meant to be, but baby, come and see me once in a while. Something like that. I'm at WKRP in Cincinnati. Now, who was in that? Howard Hessman. We had Dr. Johnny, right? He played that. Venus Flytrap. The unbelievable Lonnie Anderson. Andy, the station manager. Mr. Carlson. WKRP in Cincinnati. That was fantastic. So we move on more with Mark Zickery and Robert Picardo. Again, Avi, you did it again. More underrated. Robert comes up with Italian men named Skippy. Skippy? I don't know if I've ever seen a Goomba named Skippy. Anybody tell me I'm a Goomba? Skippy? No, but interesting there by Mr. Picardo. Mark comes up with the term groovy. Hey, baby, talk about the 70s. Mark said most underrated, the term groovy. That makes me think of the Ace Frehley Kiss song that came out, in the 80s? When they went and they did their solo albums from Kiss, when Ace Frehley came up. I believe it was Ace, or was it Paul Stanley? I'm not sure which one, but you remember it, right? I'm back in the New York groove. I'm back in the New York groove. So I guess I can go with Mark on that. Hey, man, that was groovy, Chaos. Robert goes with the term, oh, shucks. What are we watching, Andy Griffith here? Oh, shucks. What is this, Happy Days with Richie Cunningham? Who says, oh, shucks? Somebody says it, but I don't know. It's early here on a Sunday. It's early here. Listen, the eggs and bacon are on the skittle. The coffee is brewing. Everybody's sleeping. I'm down here by myself. Jay, I don't want to get too stick. I want to cover this. Unbelievable what Avi did with these two gentlemen. Again, Space Command, Sci-Fi. Go to the YouTube channels. Robert Picardo, Mark Zickery, screenwriters, fame all over TV, film, the movie industry, the big screen. Unbelievable. And again, crowd-funded. So check this out. If you're not going to want to miss it. These two guys I found to be highly entertaining. They kind of reminded me of the movie Stripes, when the relationship between Bill Murray and my good friend there, not my good friend, but he went as, how could I forget his name? The Stripes, Bill Murray and his Mark Zisky, Andy Zisky, whatever his name was there in the movie. Harold Ramis. Harold Ramis. Why didn't somebody help me out there? It reminds me, Robert Picardo and Mark Zickery remind me of that kind of relationship from that movie. Stripes. Harold Ramis. and Bill Murray. I found it to be highly entertaining. Again, thank you guys for showing up on the Green Room. We are an hour and 10 minutes in here on the review of Night 4, Round 1, as the Green Room tournament rolls on. Stick with me. We're coming up to the end here. The main event is here now between Hats David Holliday and one Jamie Sparling, the special grudge match. Listen, the bear was still on the wall in Jamie's house. David was still wearing the candy corn glasses. He is up 1-0, David Holliday. He is the odds-on favorite at the book in Vegas, and according to Avi, you know of his legendary heat with the pro wrestling world. Listen, Jamie even mentions Pete and hitting the reset button. Oh, Avi gets giddy again. Giddy, like a high school cheerleader. So hold that thought as we open up here match 4 of this night, Night 4, the main event, as they trade insults back and forth. I'm going to give you 10 seconds to ponder that. Think about that. We're ready here. Chaos Corner, down in the bunker. What a night it was, fans. I really have to say that. Breathe deep. What a night Night 4 was. And again, it'll be released soon. What's coming up next week? Saturday Night Live. Night 5, Round 1, rolls into June as we roll into the summer months. It's going to be a long, hot summer of the Green Room. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're sticking with me. We're going to wrap this up. We're going to keep it under an hour and a half. There's no two ways about it. It's going to be uploaded today, live to tape. So here we go. They're trading insults. Avi, to the envelope, please. And he pulls out the first challenge. It's debates. Now, if you remember, on night 3 with these two gentlemen, they were also have been in the main event before. David Holliday swept the first 2 challenges against his old buddy, Elevated Levels together. Elevated Levels. 20 years in the making, or more than that. He swept the first matchup. Both challenges. That's why he's up 1-0. Jamie's back is against the wall. I can't stress it enough. Envelope, please, Avi. Here we go. It's debates. And we're going to start off with David. Mr. Main Event. His dominance. Remember, we all need his dominance. I didn't forget that. And I also didn't forget that I voted for you on that night. Was deciding casting vote. And I've got nothing in return. Not even a thank you. It's going to go a long way, David Holliday, on the future and the influence I have on people that make votes around here. Remember that, Holliday. That message is specifically for you from the GOC. Okay, David? Howard even warned me about that. And it's interesting to see who the originals voted for here. Because I'm going to tell you this right from the beginning and give you another spoiler, David Holliday. Both the other originals, Howard Collado, Mickey Doyle, who's been dragged back into this, both voted against you last night. Let me say it again. Howard Collado, Howard Collado, and Mickey Doyle, Green Room Originals, voted against you last night for Jamie. In turn, Avi Klein turned on you and cut you off against the legendary John Amos and didn't even give you a chance and made you look like a clown. Talk about get out clown, get out clown. He made you look like a clown. He made you look like a clown with Todd Bridges. What you talk about, Willis? And now 2 weeks in a row, he made you look like a clown again with another legend. Remember that, David Holliday. Your own originals have turned against you. So in your monologue, and as people see and we go on here and you say whether you need people, don't need people, how's it worked out for you? That says a lot to say about what I'm going to say that to say this for the finish here in the main event. So here's the first question for David Holliday. Number 1, it's a love and hate debate. David's question from Avi. Why is hate necessary to survive in the Green Room? And David goes off into this long soliloquy, so on and so forth about hate, exposes a lot about himself. In turn, Avi asks Jamie, why is love the most necessary thing to survive in the Green Room? Now, we all know that love wins over hate every time. Faith over fear. We know all that. Jamie lays it out beautifully. I'll say that in the love-hate debate. And it's interesting how David gets to talk about hate and Jamie about love. Could say a lot about their relationship. Very powerful on both sides. Avi continues to mock Jamie throughout the whole thing. He really did attack him. I feel like it's 2-on-1. Avi flip-flops on David Holiday. Remember that, David? And it's very obvious, and again, I'll say obvious until the cows come home, who Mr. Klein is going for in this matchup. Continues to mock Jamie unnecessarily. But let's remember here as we revisit history, and maybe some people who are on the out don't really know. Like me, I've done my research and due diligence. They're all college buddies here. Avi, David, Jamie, James from right guard, blah, blah. They all have an interwoven web we weave from over 20 years ago and all reconnected. It says a lot, and now it's all going at each other. You see the favoritism and the non-favoritism, who does what, how they act. I'm a master of body language and eye language and reactions. Remember that as the guardian of chaos. No other competitor in this tournament, no other person is sitting here, including the originals of the green room, that are sitting here taking notes, watching every show and picking it apart and then reporting on it to you, the fans, to give you the inside scoop. And if you're a competitor and not watching this show, you're not finding out the strengths and weaknesses and the things that I report and that I observe. Remember, read my profile. I don't care who you are in this tournament. If you're not watching this, you're missing out on the biggest edge you can get in this damn tournament. Back to the task at hand. We go to, again, we continue with the mocking. David, why is a support system, this is Avi to David, why is a support system in life overrated? Again, you see the dark twist, these questions. Avi may know more than we all know about David Holiday. So David goes on to discuss why a support system to him, he never needed it. He didn't like it. He didn't want it. It's overrated. In turn, Jamie had to answer this question. Why is a support system necessary in life, which we all know it is? So I don't get what's going on here. I believe that a support system is huge in life. And if you watch Bill DeMott and Duke Drosy and Paul Roma and Ray Lloyd and Del Wilkes and Ken Patera and soon to be Mark Henry, you'll understand that. That's what it's all about, a support system. We know that in life if you're successful. Watch Making It Simple and Keeping It Simple with my buddy Pastor Andy McDaniel, and you'll understand that part. And this is what you get here, a mix of character and a shoot, because I tell it like it is. In between this, of the support systems, overrated, underrated, necessary, Avi calls Jamie spineless. I don't know, Jamie Sparling getting some boring and bland questions here. Let's go on to the next question. David, tell Jamie why the world would be a better place without him. Who comes up with these questions? Why would you ask that question? I don't understand why you would. You know the history here. The Grudge are supposed to be friends. Now they're foes, and we're going to go down that road with that question. You're opening up a can of worms in a road that you can't come back from, Avi Klein. So it's a pretty eye-opening experience of what David has to say to Jamie. Again, remember the history with these guys. And in turn, Jamie has to tell David why the world would be better with you. So get that. David has to say, why is the world a better place without his buddy Jamie up there in Wisconsin? And Jamie has to say why the world is a better place with his buddy David. Yin yang? Do you get where it's coming from here? And the mind games that go on in this green room? There's a lot to be said about that. Jamie ends up, Avi says to Jamie, these are the different questions. The good, the bad, the ugly that I've picked out here as we're an hour and 20 minutes in. Avi says the world would be a better place without you to Jamie. What's the history there between Jamie and Avi? Avi awfully insulting. Supposed to be biased. Non-biased. I don't know what's going on here. Avi says, don't believe him. He's playing mind games. He says that to David. He's trying to coach him along here. It's really got me perplexed. David says, Jamie, you're not going to get far. Jamie's up 1-0 in this challenge. That's the bottom line. He comes up 1-0 in his challenge. The next challenge is a monologue. Now, if you remember from night 3, I'm still troubled by these questions. If you're not troubled by these questions as a fan, as a follower, as a watcher, as a competitor, I don't know what you're talking about. Do you see what it's doing to me here? Even covering it? These questions of why the place would be better with or without you to friends? The mind games are unbelievable. We go to the monologue, and if you remember the powerful monologues these two put out in the first match, Jamie gives a monologue of Biloxi Blues, the legendary movie Biloxi Blues. I don't have to tell you about it. A traumatic experience scene. And although maybe, I'm going to be honest, it lost me for a second or two, I caught on. That's my problem, not his. Jamie Sparling presented that Biloxi Blues scene unbelievable. I'll have to say that. Very powerful. Jamie Sparling may not have the energy that you fans think, but a well-spoken, cerebral man. And he certainly put it out there, Biloxi Blues. What a movie. In turn, David. And now, if I understand from Avi, this is the very first time Shakespeare has been performed on the WWAB network. And this is right up David, who's been in film and especially theater with his buddy Jamie Sparling. Shakespeare. And it's like it was planned or he had the question. Because right away, David starts mentioning things. Shakespeare villain, Lago, Desdemona, Cassio. And he goes right into Act 2, Scene 1. How did he know all that from Shakespeare to know exactly what act, what scene? Act 2, Scene 1. Lago, Shakespeare villain. It's like he was handed the question. Do you understand? It's like he was handed the question. I don't understand what happened here. But I'm going to say that. And I'm not a huge Shakespeare guy, but we all studied it. David Holliday, that is your wheelhouse. Bravo, David Holliday. The performance of a lifetime. And if I was voting to give you an award, although you screwed me once before, you might have got it on that one. In turn, after these performances, Avi compares the two to the Knicks and the Bulls, to Jamie and David. In other words, Jamie's the New York Knicks and David's the championship Bulls. That's what he compares it to in that performance. You know, Jamie, a.k.a. the human tornado. That's what he does. He's giddy all over again, jumping around like a schoolgirl, going all crazy. Avi's beside himself. He's actually... I don't know what's going on. Jumping around, flip-flopping, like you got a hamburger or a griddle on the grill. Pancakes up, something waffles, pizzeria, throwing it up. What are you doing, Avi? So here we go. Pete vote. Here we get down to the votes now after this. Again, powerful performance. Pete votes for Jamie. Avi obviously votes for David. It's down to the fans. And all the votes came voting in. Now, I know who I voted for. And if you're paying attention and you went back to the chat and you watched the replay, you'll know who everyone voted for. But like I said in the beginning, things that I noted, Howard and Mickey voted for Jamie. I noticed that Rich Masadi, who's embroiled with Duke the Dumpster Drosy right now, another influential man and a surprise Cinderella in this tournament. I noticed that Rich also voted for David. So you see the sides here. I voted for David once before. Go back and check out and see who I voted for this time. I'm keeping track of all that stuff. Avi freaks out here because the votes come pouring in, and who wins? Jamie! The fans voted for Jamie. Bruce Lee, Mr. Miyagi, mentor of young men and women, an excellent role model, Mr. Cerebral, the human tornado. The fans voted for Jamie. And again, for the second time, I've only seen it, Pete has the control, the national sponsor. He mutes Avi again. Why can't after all the times I've been muted and cut off? Sabotaged, if you will. He gets muted again. It really is unbelievable. Avi's trying to recall the vote. He's calling this a fraud. He's calling it fake. He's calling out Pete. These two, for the first time that I've seen, have gone back and forth all night on night 4. There's a lot going on here. To see Avi get muted again, it's unbelievable. Avi's calling for another vote. Pete's saying no. He's sticking to his guns. I'll give Pete credit. I'll give him credit for, at least at this point, he's sticking up to Avi. And Avi says, well, I'm still the host right now of the Green Room. Well, not for long. Festive fine, vanilla fine, golden fine, midnight fine, Klein. Not for long, according to Pete from Sharpie. I'm just telling you what Pete did. He put you in your place. So we go to a coin flip. This is what they're going to decide, because Jamie evens it up. It's 1-1 now. He evens up the night's events from the debates, from the questions, from the different challenges. Again, it's even now at 1-1. Here we go. In the challenges, we're even now in 1-1 in the challenges. Here we come. We come to another deadlock that seems to happen in a couple of these different matches. We go to the coin flip. Pete does the coin flip this time. Pete does the coin flip. Remember that. Avi's always doing the coin flip. Pete this time is taking control at the end in the main event. A critical matchup. David Holliday, Jamie Sparling, friends for 20 years. The coin toss. David calls heads. Put it in the books. It was tails. Jamie wins. The series now, he wins that night, last night, and now the series is tied 1-1 in the best of 3. David, you talked all that. I'm just here to give you my observation. You said all these different things. Avi put all his money on you and backed you. And guess what? Your back is now against the wall. The pressure is off, Jamie Sparling. You were up 1-0. He had all the pressure last night. And what happened? He came back. Pete stood his ground. Simple as a coin toss. It's now tied 1-1 in the best of 3. And the next time you two see each other, the odds-on favorite, Mr. Main Event, you could be eliminated from the Green Room as one of the originals. Let that sink in. Avi actually must have cloned himself, because that's how crazy he was, that he actually was cloned and was sitting beside himself. You can't make it up. He really was beside himself. I haven't seen Avi like this in quite some time, maybe ever. So that's how the main event and night 4 wraps up, leading into night 5 of the Green Room. Avi and Pete go into an outro and the trailer of what's coming up for the Green Room in night 5, and all the different competitors and matchups and potential announcements at a site to be determined, at a time to be announced. I'll say that to say this. At the end, Avi says that him and Pete have to talk, and Pete agrees. So as we go off the air last night, 3.5 hours live, the Green Room, night 4, round 1, to see who's going to be the Green Room host in the middle of the tournament as we roll on into night 5 next week, Saturday Night Live. Avi and Pete, secret meetings. We don't know what happened. We don't know what happened. All I know is night 5 is next week. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Say hello, serve, salute those and the veterans that have served this country and made us have the privileges to do what we do in this country and in this lifetime. I want to salute all the military, all the first responders, all the law enforcement, all my family and friends. And yes, you, the fans, the most important thing, stay close to your family. Stay close to your faith. Stay close to each other and like-minded people. And I'll say that to say this. Thanks for being here. We're an hour and a half in. You're not going to want to miss it. I will be back down here in the bunker from Chaos Corner. And remember, I'm just going to say that to say this. Don't you dare miss the Green Room. WWAB strong. WWAB proud.